Imagine for a moment you're in a conversation. You're engaging with someone who seems confident, even a little magnetic. They speak with conviction, often shifting the conversation back towards their own accomplishments, their own needs, their own desires. Notice how quickly their stories loop back to them, how their focus never truly shifts to anyone else. They may appear charming, appealing in some way, drawing attention, making you feel like you're part of their narrative, like they have the answers, like they're the ones who can show you the way. And in that moment it feels like you might be drawn into their world, a world where everything revolves around them, where your needs, wants and thoughts are secondary. But as you listen more, as you pay close attention to the way they engage, something begins to shift inside you. There's a recognition that their words and actions, they're about controlling the environment. They're about creating an image, about manipulating how they're perceived, rather than truly connecting with others. You might even notice the lack of concern for how others feel, the way they might brush off someone that they perceive as unimportant, a waiter for example, treating them with little regard. The truth is, in that moment, they're not really seeing you. They're seeing themselves. They're seeing what they can take from you, how they can shape the conversation, the narrative, so it can serve them. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because you're used to thinking in terms of what's right or wrong, and you start to wonder, are you just being overly sensitive? Maybe it's all in your head. But when you step back and you truly observe, you can realise they're not interacting with the world the way that you do. Their lens is different. Every interaction, every move, every gesture is designed to serve one thing, them. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how people like this have a way of bending things to their will? Maybe they claim to be so busy they can't spare a moment to consider someone else's needs. Maybe they can never admit when they're wrong, because to them, admitting mistakes feels like losing power. They'll make excuses to deflect blame, but never truly own what they've done. And if you try to challenge them, it's like you've stepped into a battlefield. They'll quickly label you as disrespectful, as someone who doesn't understand them, as someone who doesn't appreciate their brilliance. It's an interesting paradox, isn't it? The more they talk about themselves, the more you start to feel like you're becoming part of their narrative. But all along, they've been using you as a stepping stone to reinforce their own sense of importance. Now imagine how you might respond when faced with someone who lives in this way. This world of self-centeredness, of grandiosity, of entitlement, is subtle, almost imperceptible at first. It's a certain language, a certain rhythm of their words, a pattern of never fully seeing others, but always being quick to react to their own image. When they speak, notice the pronouns I. It's often the dominant force. Everything that comes out of their mouth is built around them, their importance, their desires, their needs. But then notice the way they manipulate reality. If you disagree, they twist it, reframe it, shift it. It's never about the truth. It's about winning. It's about control. They don't engage with the idea itself. They engage with the power that they can extract from it. They make you feel small, insignificant, like their version of reality is the only one that makes sense. And if they can't control the narrative, they'll just deflect, with an excuse, a blame, a justification. And this isn't just one thing. It's a pattern. It's an unconscious belief that they operate on every single day. It's not about knowing right or wrong. It's about knowing they deserve everything, while everything else is just an obstacle in the way. But what happens when you start to see through the facade? What happens when you begin to notice the manipulation? When you start to pay attention to how they treat others, especially when there's no one watching? When you observe how they respond to those who can't help them, those who hold no power in their eyes, you see the truth. The manipulation is a game. They play for control, for attention, for admiration. And it's a cycle, one where they feel entitled to take from others, never questioning whether it's right or wrong, just always focusing on what's next, what's theirs. But here's the thing, you don't have to play along with their game. You don't have to buy into their narrative. What you can do is learn to recognise where the pattern starts. Notice how it shows up, how they redirect focus, how they seek to evaluate themselves at the cost of others. Once you recognize it, you can choose. You can decide where to draw your boundaries. You can choose to protect your energy, your space, and your sense of self. Because it's not about playing the same game that they are. It's about recognizing when they're trying to pull you into a narrative that isn't yours. When they're trying to mold you into someone who fits into their world. When you realize that, when you truly understand it, you start to see you have the power. You don't need their approval, their validation, or their manipulation. You can choose to walk away, to step out of their story, to create your own. And as you do, you begin to feel lighter, freer, more connected with what really matters, the truth, your truth, and the relationships built on mutual respect, not control. And as you stand in your own strength, you realize it's not about fighting them, it's about choosing a different path, one where you are no longer just a character in their story, but the author of your own. And that, my friend, is where your true power lies.